disorderly. And the activities of disorder is proliferating or is moving in the world. Now, can this mind observe itself without introducing the factor of an orderly mind, which is the opposite? I don't know.
Yes, it is. The opposite is, of course, it's the
So
opposite.
can it observe without the observer, who is the opposite?
Mm-hmm. That's the question.
Now, watch it, sir, if you are really interested in it.
I am. I'm deeply interested in it.
If you will see, the observer is the observed. The observer who says, I am orderly and I must put order in disorder. Generally what takes place. But the observer is the factor of disorder. Because the observer is the past, is the factor of division. Where there is division, there is not only conflict, but disorder. You could see so happening actually in the world. I mean, all this problem of energy, all this problem of war, peace and all that, can all be solved absolutely when there are not separate governments, sovereign armies, and say, look, let's solve this problem all together, for God's sake. We are human beings. This earth is meant for us to live on. Not Arabs and Israelis and America and Russia. It's our earth.
And it's round. Yes.
But we will never do that because our minds are so conditioned to live in disorder, to live in conflict.
And vocation is given a religious description in terms of the task of cleaning up the disorder with my idea of order.
Your idea of order is the fact that has produced disorder.
Exactly.
So it brings up a question, so it's very interesting. Can the mind observe itself without the observer? Because the observer is the observed. Disorder, the observer who says, I will bring order in disorder, that observer itself is a fragment of disorder.
Yes.
Therefore, it can never bring about order. So can the mind be aware of itself as a movement of disorder, not trying to correct it, not trying to justify it, not trying to shape it, just to observe. I said previously, to observe sitting on the banks of a river and watch the waters go by. You see, I mean, then you see much more. But if you are in the middle of it swimming, you'll see nothing.
I've never forgotten that it was when I stopped questioning and I stood before that droplet of dew on the leaf that everything changed. Totally.
Quite.
Totally. And what you say is true. Once something like that happens, there isn't a regression from it.
Oh, no, sir,
Yes.
it is not once, it is...
Forever. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not an incident that took place. It is, my life is not an incident, it is a movement.
Exactly.
And in that movement, I observe this movement of disorder. And therefore, the mind itself is disorderly. And how can that disorderly, chaotic, contradictory, absurd little mind bring about order? It can't. Therefore, a new factor is necessary. And the new factor is to observe, to perceive, to see without the perceiver.
To perceive without the perceiver. To perceive without the perceiver.
Because the perceiver is the perceived.
Yes.
If you once grasp that, then you see everything without the perceived. You don't bring in your personality, your ego, your selfishness. You say, disorder is the factor which is in me, not out there. The politicians trying to bring about order, when they are themselves so corrupt. You follow, sir? How can they bring order?
It's impossible. It's impossible. It's a one long series of palliatives.
That's what's happening in the world. Where the politicians are ruling the world. From Moscow, from Delhi, from Washington, wherever it is. It's the same pattern being repeated. Living a chaotic, corrupt life, you try to bring order in the world. It's childish. So, that's why transformation of the mind is not your mind or my mind. It's the mind, the human mind.
Or the mind trying to order itself, even. Not even that.
Now, how can
because
a blind man trying to bring about color? And he says, well, that's grey, and for it has no meaning. So, can the mind observe this disorder in itself without the observer who has created disorder? So this brings a very simple thing. To look at a tree, at a woman, at a mountain, at a bird, or a sheet of water with a light on it, the beauty of it, to look without the seer. Because